Hi everyone, this is Terry. I know this is a little bit of an unusual format for me to come to you in, but I had some things I wanted to share personally on a personal level, so I don't have anyone with me, and I'm not on a motorcycle, I'm not promoting an event, I'm not doing anything, but just sort of speaking through my heart and hopefully being able to encourage maybe just one person out there. And if I could do that, it would everything that I've gone through for the last few years would be so well worth it. Some of the most bizarre happenings, um, difficult situations, and unlikely actions, um, in those times, somehow life can bring us the best blessings, the best gifts, the best lessons if we allow it to. And I realize that many of you don't share the same faith I do, and that's way cool. I don't mind at all. And I promise you, I'm not trying to in any way push my faith on you. But for me, it's something very personal, and it does have an impact on my journey and what I've gone through. And so I'll be reflecting on that some, but please don't feel like I'm pushing on you because I'm not pushing anything on anyone. And I might have well, I know I did on my children when they were young, and some was needed and some was very not needed. And I can see that now. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey and where I've come to, where I am right now. Um, a lot of this has to do with, like I said, lessons that life brings us in the most unreal ways. I have been in a situation for the last few years that's allowed me to reflect and see things much more clearly than I have in the past. And there were things that greatly affected me and my family. And while people saw me spectacularly failing in a trail of flames, they don't really see the struggle, or they don't really know the lessons or what came of that. And while I was writing earlier today, I thought, if I can reach out and help one person possibly avoid what I've gone through, it would be worth it. And so that's why I'm coming to you from my office, and it's in full disarray at the moment. In the middle of moving things in, moving things out, getting everything taken care of. But I thought this was a little bit more important. So I hope you hang in there with me, and please feel free to comment and let me know what you think. Because of what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to moderate the comments, and you'll see why in a little bit. But I want to start with some things. Everyone saw me fall. And when I was speaking of lessons coming to us in unexpected ways and the gifts that we can get, I made a conscious decision several years ago, a couple of years ago, that I was going to take the good in the bad situations and forget the crap at the silver lining, okay? Silver lining, you're gone. I want to take that bad, learn from the bad. I don't want to see the silver lining, and because to me that sort of says that you're getting rid of the bad and you're not recognizing it. And that was a lot of my problem, and what led to a vast array of mistakes and bad choices and decisions that ultimately led to the death of my marriage and my family. And well, I guess not ultimately, because ultimately everything turned out really, really great. But I want to tell you a little bit about what got there. I'm going to start kind of at the beginning with some bad situations and the good that has come from them for me. When I was a teenager, I didn't have the best of childhoods, and I didn't have the worst of childhoods. I was brought up in a rather privileged home, but that also meant that I was brought up pretty much without parents. My father was away all but about 3 days of the month, and my mother worked. And because of the way they were each raised, the childhood my brothers and I had was pretty much hands off. Their parenting skills were pretty much hands off. My father was an alcoholic. My mother worked all the time. And so my brothers and I were kind of on ourselves, and it led to some very poor decisions. It led to a lot of insecurities within me. I can't speak for my brothers, but I can speak as to my personal experiences. And although while I was in school, I was a pretty good kid. I mean, great student, did awesome in school. Well, then when I got out of school before college, I kind of went down a bit of a wild path. I was very insecure. I jumped out of my home when I was about 18. I wasn't able to go back for a variety of situations or reasons. And I ended up in a marriage. A marriage, I guess you could say, of convenience, because I really had no place else to go. And although it was a horrible, horrible experience in my life, I allowed myself to go through things that I would never put my child through. And first of all, I have to thank Willie Nelson for my daughter, the birth of my daughter. He indirectly was responsible. I had been to a Willie Nelson concert, and I met with the man and ended up marrying him. I went through some things that, like I said, I would not put my child through. When I found out that I was pregnant, I left and I went back to my parents. And the baby was born. Back then, 35, 36 years ago, ultrasound, they didn't do ultrasounds. We didn't know what it was. I thought I was going to have a boy. And I was surprised. I had a little girl. She was exactly what I had prayed for. I had been praying for years. I had a beautiful little girl with gorgeous big green eyes and curly hair and just an infectious smile. And I instantly fell in love with her. And she was such a blessing. It was just such a blessing. And then after that, I got into another relationship, and I had my son. And I learned a lot through that relationship as well. And what I gained from that was my boy. He's very handsome, he's very witty, he's very charismatic, he's funny, he's intelligent, he's smart, he has very strong convictions, and I'm very proud of both of those kids. But after I left that situation with his father, I was pretty much floundering. I didn't have much of a foundation. My father was raised with his mother going to work. He was left in a playpen, and the neighbor would come in every 4 hours to feed and change him. So that kind of gives you a little bit of knowledge of how my father was raised. Well, my mother, while she did have extended family, her grandparents, her mother worked all the time. Both of my grandparents were alcoholics. My grandfathers were alcoholics. They were gone. My grandmothers were on their own. And so my parents really didn't have a real firm role model for parenting. And so they kind of winged it. And I think I held a lot against them for a long time. And it wasn't until recent events and some events of the past I made some realizations. But after the situation with my son's father, I believe that I was led into a relationship with a man. We felt passionately in love, and he was my soulmate. He was older than I was. I was 24, 25. I had 2 little kids. He was 36 or 37. He had 3 older children. He had just divorced. Bad mix. Young girl his kids were practically my age. I had no experience with teenagers. Those boys were terribly hurt by what they had been through. I didn't have enough life experience to realize that at the time. I made huge mistakes. My husband made huge mistakes. We all made huge mistakes. It doesn't really fall on anyone. But we plowed through. We went through. And we ended up moving to the Northwest. Well, I didn't realize at the time how much I hurt my children by taking them from their grandparents. I realize that now. I wish it could be undone, but unfortunately it can't be. Excuse me, but it's allowed me to realize, like I said, a lot of things, and that's what I've been trying to do is look at my past, look at incidents, look at things that have happened, take the bad and see what the good is. How can I apply that to my life and come out a better person? Well, when we moved to the Northwest, it was it was an amazing new start, I thought. And my husband and I ended up adopting a baby. And through that baby, that opened the door for more babies. And we ended up, before we knew it, we had 6 children, 6 adopted children, along with my 2 children. And he had his 3 boys, so that's 11 kids total. And it was hard. It was hard. The first baby we adopted, easy, fun, very incredible child to raise. The second baby we adopted had autism. We didn't know it at the time. They didn't screen for it, and it was a very difficult, blurry time. His whole upbringing, it was hard. It was difficult, and so keep in mind, I'm in a situation, a difficult situation. I've come through other situations. I have situations that I'm not aware of at the time that are buried in the back of my mind, and I'm trying to deal with all of this. Well, here I am. I'm homeschooling 8 kids. I'm helping co-run a corporation. I'm dealing with very special needs children. And then we had something that happened to us where, not really to us, but to our oldest daughter. She was stalked and raped by one of our employees. And we encourage her. We keep the baby. You keep the baby. And so that was really probably one of the first horrible events that we faced as a couple, was what happened to our daughter. But when I weigh that against the blessing we received with our grandson, who is 17 now, and he's smart and he's intelligent and he's driven and he's compassionate and he's such a humanitarian, and we're so very proud of him. That's a difficult line. I mean, where do you go? There is no backtracking. It is what it is. Do I wish my daughter had not gone through that? Yes. But do I still want my grandson? Yes. So that's kind of a hard thing. But our grandson is such a blessing that it outweighed the bad that happened. And I think my daughter would agree with me. And then she got married again and got pregnant a few years later with another little boy. When he was about 10 days old, we found out that he was going to die. That was in 2004. Isaiah would be 13, July 19th of this year. And when we found out Isaiah was going to die, we brought him home. We're in hospice with him. I can't even begin to tell you the feelings of trying to raise the children we had, watching my daughter watch her baby die, watch my family watch their nephew and little brother and grandson die, and trying to be the glue that held everything together. Well, a lot of people would ask me, why aren't you angry with God? You're a Christian. Why aren't you angry with God? He killed your grandson. No, he didn't kill my grandson. Herpes encephalitis killed my grandson. But what I learned through that, and what I would tell them was, we don't see the full picture. What we see, in my belief, is we're seeing things from underneath. We're seeing the tapestry from underneath, and we're seeing these bad things that happen as the dark threads and the knots on the bottom of the tapestry. And we haven't been yet given the chance to see the completion of the masterpiece. But I'm convinced that where those dark threads and knots are, when we look at the top of the masterpiece, the top of that created piece of art, we're going to see how integral those dark threads were in situations that we have no idea about. And so that's how I looked at Isaiah's dying, and it was hard. He lies just 5 minutes from my house, and I couldn't even go up the road to the cemetery, by the cemetery, for years because it hurt so bad. I pushed it back and I buried it. That was in 2004. In 2006, my daughter had another baby, and he was born 3 months early. He was born, I think, at a little over 25 weeks. And 2 weeks after he was born, my mother was killed. Well, when my mom was killed, I heard the phone ring, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, well, surely no one's calling me. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Who's going to be calling me? I'll wait to see if they leave a message. Well, there was a message left, and it was my mother's sister who said, Terry, your mother is in grave condition at the hospital. You need to call your uncle. I called my uncle, and my uncle's words to me were, Terry, I'm sorry, but your mother just died. That little bit of emotion that you just saw in me was more than I had when my mother died. It wasn't because I didn't love her. I loved her with everything within me. I think it was because I was on autopilot. I was in shock. You don't expect to get a phone call in the middle of the night saying your mother just died when you just spoke with her 12 hours earlier. Well, I'm convinced I would be arrested for murder. You see on all these forensic file shows, right? Oh, you didn't react the way you should have reacted, and so you're a suspect for murder. I'm convinced, had my mother been murdered, I would have been arrested because I had no emotion, outward emotion. I was thinking of my dad. I was thinking about getting to Texas from Oregon. I was thinking, who was going to take care of my kids? I had all these thoughts in my mind, and I think, truthfully, I was trying to push the death of my mother away. I get to Texas, took care of my dad. My brothers and I jumped in. One of my mother's sisters jumped in as well, and we took care of my dad. Well, I guess what I'm getting at with the death of my mother, even though a tragic loss, had my mother not been killed, I wouldn't have had the experience with my father that I had. As I said earlier, my dad was away most of our growing up. He was a corporate pilot and was home. He did the best he could with us when he was there. There were some things that happened that were buried in boxes that I didn't really open up until after Mom died. And Dad was there, but he did the best he could. Well, everyone jumped on board to help Dad. I was in Texas 1 to 2 weeks a month for 13 months. And that was really, the death of my mother gave me the most incredible gift of my father. I had 13 months with my dad that I had never had before. I formed a relationship with him, that's indescribable. It really, things that I thought had happened, there were admissions made, there were apologies on both sides. My father told me for the first time, not being filled with alcohol, that he loved me. He told me he realized how important it was to be touched and hugged and kissed and loved. And he hadn't realized that until the death of my mom. Well, Dad and I had so many talks. And one of the things that I realized while speaking with my dad was that while I guess in no way perfect, every parent tries the best they can with what they have. My parents did the best they could with what they had. They raised us the best they could with what they had role models for. And that was a big realization for me. I was able to let go of a lot of resentment. I was able to let go of a lot of pain. I was able to enjoy those last 13 months of life with my father. You know, I think, one of the things that it taught me being with dad is that life gets in the way sometimes of what we want to do and what we want for our kids. And it just happens. That's just the way it is. And it doesn't make our parents bad people. It makes them human. Something comes up, life throws you a curveball. You have to do something with it, you know, and sometimes it takes your focus off of where it should be. Well, it really let me see my parents were human and that humans do make mistakes and bad choices. And even when intentions are good, there's not one of us in any walk of life that escapes failure. Those last 13 months alone with my dad, I came to know that they did their best. And that's all I can ask is I knew that that they did their best and that they really, really loved us. And I made a choice at that point to hang on to the good and let go of the bad, because all the bad did was damage me. It damaged my memory of them. It damaged the stories I could tell my children. And I realized my parents loved us and they did the very best that they could do. And that was a huge breakthrough for me at that point. Well, a little bit after my dad died, my daughter got pregnant again. And this baby was born, little girl, my granddaughter. She was born about 24 weeks. Well, I didn't realize it at the time. The year was 2008, which was the year of my crash and burn, basically, when it began. She was born in 2008. When I saw her little 24-week-old purple, lifeless body on the table surrounded with doctors trying to get her to live, it gave me flashbacks of something that happened to me when I was younger that I had kept buried for a very, very long time and actually didn't make any admissions to until lately. And not many people knew. I think my parents and just one of my brothers and maybe my cousin. Um, but the flashbacks that came were so devastating that they drove me. Those flashbacks unlocked other boxes that I didn't want to deal with. So I have these boxes opening left and right and left and right. I didn't know how to cope. I had the 8 kids. I was homeschooling 8 kids. I was helping with a business. I was overloaded. I was stressed. I was suffering from PTSD. I didn't know that at the time. And I lost it. I was weak and I broke. And when I broke, I pretty much took my family and my marriage down in flames. Well, we fast forward to the divorce, and I met someone else and got into a relationship with a classic grifter. He saw what he thought, that I had money, that I had a home, that I was driving a Mercedes at the time, and he latched on. Well, through that, he was impotent physically and mentally, and that was a great blessing to me because that's really kind of what I want to address in this post is how I got through and how I recognized all the things that had happened to me and how I made the choices to deal with what I did. And, people have asked me of late why I'm not angry about what happened and how he took advantage of me and how he tried to take things that weren't his, how he did take things that weren't his. And I can't be anything but thankful because through that experience, I was able to watch and experience firsthand what it felt like when I pretty much shunned my husband. I had to sit back. I had no attention. I had nothing. I was me. I was in my house. I was alone. I kept up a happy face. I kept up a happy front, but I was alone pretty much. And through watching him and his actions and learning more about what happened, I saw a lot of myself. I saw a lot of, or felt, I guess, a lot of how my husband had felt when I pushed him away and not understanding. I was allowed to really, um, I guess, gain more that was taken from me. A lot was taken, but a lot was gained, and that's what I choose to focus on is what was gained. It appeared that I walked right into the den of the devil when in fact I walked into a situation that was allowing me to be set free from the talons of the devil and bestowed with some of the greatest gifts I've ever been given. And those are nothing material. I was kept isolated in a way that allowed me to reflect on my life, my path, my mistakes, my choices, good and bad, and the course of my life. I was able to really clearly, for the first time, see my part, my responsibility clearly in the destruction of my relationship with my very best friend and the relationship with my children. And I saw how by me pulling away and my actions, they caused chain reactions. My action caused my husband to act in a certain way, which made me. Okay, we're going to try this again because I dropped some frames somewhere. Um, I think I was speaking when the frames dropped about how I need to check to see if this is even filming right now. Yes, it is. Okay, so now we can get back to business. Sorry, guys. But that's what you get when you're dealing with a blonde. But you know, I realized the chain reactions that I set off by things that I kept buried, that by things that I kept myself blind to, and how horrible it was, and how horribly it damaged my children and my family. Um, you know, I'm reminded of the quote of Thomas Edison when he said, "I've not failed. I've only found 10,000 ways that don't work, or that won't work." And that's me. That describes me completely. My failures are made me who I am today. I've made the conscious decision to be a better person. I've made the conscious decision to reach out and apologize and make amends. I won't tolerate negativity in my life. Did I say that correctly? Tolerate negativity. Yes, I won't tolerate negativity in my life, gossip, or any of the such. The last 3 years, I can't be anything but thankful because they show me who I need to be. They've brought me back to my soulmate and my best friend. And what's really funny is several of my kids have said, "Mom, you and Dad are different. You're the same, but you're different." We are. Our relationship, while in the beginning was based on attraction, it's still on attraction, but it's on a deeper understanding of friendship, a deeper foundation, a realization that we are supposed to be together. God put us together for a reason, and we're not going to let hell or high water come between us again. You know, I'm also, through this last situation, I was given the gift of friendship, friends that became family, family that became friends. I was given the ability to separate the wheat from the chaff, and knowing and seeing and feeling the changes in myself and having others see the changes in me and the changes in my husband have been one of the most incredible gifts ever. So, with all that I've learned and all that I've been through, with all of the bad, I would be a fool to be anything but thankful. Because without everything that I've gone through, how could I have learned? Who knows where I would be or what I would be doing? Who knows? So I encourage you. I encourage you all. Look at those things that are holding you captive. Look at those things that are holding you and keeping you. Fear is one of our greatest enemies. And if we can conquer fear, fear is nothing but a feeling that we manufacture ourselves. Danger is real. As my friend Gary reminded me, danger is real. Fear is manufactured. We manufacture fear, and it stops us from so many incredible blessings. So I encourage you all, be fearless. Go out and conquer. Be thankful. Look at the good. Look at the bad and learn from the bad. Forgive. Be forgiven. Forgive yourself. But most of all, be willing. Be open. Be humble. Give mercy. Love justice and walk humbly. And I think that's probably about all I have to say right now. So I hope this hasn't been too long-winded, and I hope you kind of understand where I'm coming from. And look forward to some kick-ass rockin' motorcycle videos here coming up shortly, because I'm expecting some amazing trips. I think that we are going to have an amazing blast and have so much fun. I'm back with Jeff. I video a lot of stuff with us when we're in the car because he is so funny and we play off of each other so well. Which brings me back to one of my points. I praise God for putting me in a situation that was so bad. I had no choice but to look at myself, see my mistakes, see my failures, see how I made other people feel, and choose to learn from it. So I hope that encourages you guys some. I hope you guys don't think I'm a complete and total flake for sitting here in front of the computer talking to you about just life and mistakes and, whatever. But I promise we'll have some more exciting things coming up soon. I love you all. Thank you. And leave some comments, but I will moderate them because I'm sure I'll get some pretty negative comments from certain people out there. But let me know. I love you guys, and hopefully we'll see you guys doing some really exciting things. We have some great events planned, so have a great night, and thanks for listening.